Hey guys, what's up? Nathan here, 24 Chambers of Film. Going to be doing a movie review on Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, fourth installment in the Beverly Hills Cop series. Not sure why they decided to call it Axel F instead of just Beverly Hills Cop 4. Feel like it would have just made more sense to just continue with Beverly Hills Cop 4, right? The movie has been in development for quite some time. I think since the 90s, right? They tried to do a fourth Beverly Hills Cop, you know, basically stuck in developmental hell. At one point, a few years ago, they tried to do a TV series and didn't get picked up, but apparently it did so well that that caused them to continue to push for Beverly Hills Cop 4, which obviously led to what we have today. The film was released by Netflix, I guess through permission from Paramount, who I believe owns the rights to it. And you know, gonna get right into it. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, probably shut off now because gonna give away some spoilers. Come back later and let us know what you thought about the movie. The first thing I have to say is a movie like this, they are not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? They're just trying to give you a solid flick that really relies on you liking the characters, right? You don't really need to see any of the other Beverly Hills Cop movies to really understand this movie, although it helps because there's some minor references to some things, especially like the background between the characters, such as Axel Foley, Taggart, and then Billy Rosewood, and guys like Serge, right? But overall, you don't need to see any of the other movies. You can still watch this one and not miss a beat. And with that said, the movie is very true to what a Beverly Hills Cop movie is, right? When it starts off, like the opening scene is Axel Foley in Detroit looking to foil a robbery, which then leads to him getting, there being a bunch of destruction and essentially, you know, typical or like him getting, chewed out and all that kind of stuff. What then happens is Billy Rosewood, who's now a private investigator, still back in Beverly Hills, calls him because his daughter is a lawyer, a defense attorney, and he got her involved in a case with a guy who's accused of being a cop killer, for killing an undercover cop. So he calls Axel and tells him that, he thinks he's in danger, and Axel agrees to go down there, and Billy's supposed to go pick him up. When he arrives, Billy doesn't pick him up because, as you see in the movie, he was investigating this case still and found some, evidence and ends up getting caught by the bad guys. So Axel, being Axel, goes to Billy Rosewood's office and finds some guys there who are searching through stuff. And it's actually kind of a funny scene because he comes in and he does total typical Axel Foley, right? He comes in and he's like, "Come on, guys, why is this taking so long?" They're like, "Who sent you?" And he's like, "Who do you think sent me?" And they're like, I believe they say Beck, and he's like, "Yeah." And he's up my ass, and now I'm gonna be up your ass because you guys know how you can get. And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we know." So as they're looking through stuff, he finds a piece of evidence written like on a piece of paper or something that he thinks is evidence. He tears it out, kind of puts in his pocket, and then they find a picture of Billy Rosewood and him in the office, and he goes, "Hey," from way back in the day, "Hey, isn't this you?" He's like, "That's not me." He goes, "That's Wesley Snipes." He goes, "A lot of people confuse me with him and stuff like that. He's a good looking guy, isn't he?" Blah, 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 blah. Just typical Axel Foley. And then the actual guy, Beck, comes in and a chase ensues. And he ends up stealing like a meter maid car going through down Rodeo and the shopping district and eventually ends up getting arrested. In the police station, they introduce you to Detective Abbott, Bobby Abbott, who is basically, they let you know that he used to fly helicopters, no longer does that, and he's a police detective now, and Axel kind of, tries to not insult him, but kind of, just be Axel and talk his way out of it. He ends up actually, taking off his handcuffs and just kind of not walking out, but, kind of making it seem like, "I've been here, this is not my first rodeo here in Beverly Hills," which they address as well in the movie, and he wants you to speak to Taggart, who is now the chief, right? If you don't remember who Taggart is, he was Billy Rosewood, who is Judge Reinhold, Billy Rosewood's partner in the previous movies, bald guy, mustache. And, Joseph Gordon-Levitt at first doesn't want to really, you know, let him talk to him. So But he gets his phone call and he calls his daughter, who, like I said, is a defense attorney, says, "I need your help getting out of here," and she hangs up on him. And it's a pretty funny scene because he's like, "Man, you guys aren't paying your bills," so as he's trying to get multiple phone calls. Eventually, she comes over. It's made very clear they have an estranged relationship, right? They don't get along. And one thing I thought was pretty good about the way they set this up is typically when you see like a movie where a old character introduces like a new character, which is a family member, it's especially in cop movies like father son combo, right? And the son is a cop now. So it was a daughter, and she's a lawyer and a defense lawyer at that, which kind of goes against what you would think, a cop's daughter would do, right? Because they should be, kind of on the side of the police where, defense attorney, not saying that they're not on the side of the police, but they're defending suspected criminals, right? A lot of times. And so it's made very clear early on that they don't get along, that they've had a tumultuous relationship. So then he ends up finally getting, and it's made very clear as well that uh Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bobby Abbott, and Jane, sorry, her name is Jane, Eddie Murphy's daughter in the movie, Axel Foley's daughter, Jane Saunders. They go through the whole thing where she changed her last name as well. She's played by Taylour Paige, so they make it very clear that Jane Saunders and Detective Bobby Abbott um, have had a relationship in the past. So then he gets to talk to Axel Foley gets to talk to Taggart, and as soon as he gets in there, you're introduced to Kevin Bacon, which right off the bat, this is the bad guy, and they don't try to hide it, right? They don't try to hide that he's the bad guy, and then as the movie continues, um, basically she's trying to his daughter, Axel Foley's daughter, is trying to get away from Axel, and he kind of talks her into, hey, let's at least try to help Billy out, find out where Billy is, because he doesn't go AWOL like this, right? And even though he's a PI and he might be off the grid at times. So they start looking for information. And of course, they run into Kevin Bacon's character again, Grant, and Captain Grant. And he makes it very clear, like within the first 30, 40 minutes, he's the main bad guy. And now it's how are they going to prove he's the bad guy, and what are they going to do with, to get Billy back, right? Because they don't know if he's dead or alive. Um, So basically, Grant is working with cartels to help him smuggle drugs and things like that. And they try to do a hit on um on Axel Foley and his daughter. At the time, at that moment, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character Bobby Abbott is actually tailing them, and he realizes what's about to happen, and basically helps them out. And they end up taking out the hitman, the cartel hitman that tried to take them out. Causes, middle Beverly Hills, so it's obviously news, and Taggart's pissed off and ends up telling Foley that he needs to get out of here, and then ends up suspending Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character Bobby Abbott, who then they accuse Taggart of kind of like taking the piss on it and not really caring about the job anymore. And it is also revealed that Judge Reinhold's character is Billy Rosewood. The reason that he's a PI now, no longer a cop, is because when he brought evidence, especially to Taggart, Taggart didn't back him on it, and he ended up quitting. So the movie goes on, and basically, in Axel Foley fashion, right? You tell him he's got to leave, he's not going to leave. He's going to stay and try to find out as much as he can and get to the bottom of this, right? So when he finds out that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character has been suspended as well, he makes a claim of like, I've done some of my best work when I was suspended, right? So this is where the movie to me really starts to pick up. I guess the gun scene when the cartel hitman try to take him out, that's when it really starts to pick up, because before that it's a lot of setup, a lot of setup, a lot of setup, which is good, right? Because it kind of gets you, understanding the dynamic between the characters. So what happens is they find out the that there's a house that Axel had tailed some guys to, that seems to be like a front for a bunch of money laundering activity. So to get to the house, right? Because it's like get to the house. It's a nice gated community. There's the one that's next to it is for sale. So they have to get in there to see the house, which is by appointment only. And then his job is to scale the fence while they're there. So they call Serge, who, if you don't remember who Serge is, he's from the first Beverly Hills Cop where they have that scene where he's like, Eddie Murphy's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" and the guy's like, "Yeah," and it's pretty funny scene. Go back and watch it if you haven't. I'm not gonna try try to reenact it here, but essentially, he comes in typical search fashion, flamboyant, energetic, and they go. He makes an appointment. I guess he's a real estate agent, and they go into to see the house, and his daughter and Justin Gordon-Levitt's character are pretending to be a couple again, and he's the rich dad who's gonna buy the house. So he breaks into the house, you know, finds some evidence, and they see him on camera, so they know he's there already. So when they come back, they basically the daughter thinks, okay, we have enough circumstantial evidence to prevent reasonable doubt for her client, right? The quote unquote cop killer who they're claiming to being a cop killer. But they're saying, "No, we gotta solve the case, though." So she gets upset because she's like, "You guys aren't here to try to it's about just what you guys wanna do, which is solve the case, not help get my client off." And she kinda storms off upset. But Axel and, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Bobby Abbott, the detective, they decide now to go question the uncle of the kid who's being accused of being a cop killer. And this is a pretty funny scene because they go there, and it's obviously a cartel bar where they go to, right? Joseph Gordon-Levitt found out the information, and when they're about to walk in, he says, "Hey, man," just Joseph Gordon-Levitt says to Axel Foley, he says, "This is like a cartel bar, man. Like, it's not like a regular place or something like that." And he goes, "I'm from Detroit," kind of like saying it's not going to be a thing. And they walk in, and then you see Luis Guzman right away, and he's singing karaoke. Um, and it's a funny scene, and they sit down, and in typical Axel Foley fashion, he's like, "Well, we gotta let them know we're here, right?" So he starts cheering them on like, "Bravo, bravo, this and that," and almost condescending, right? So he gets up, Luis Guzman gets up, and they have like a little confrontation, and finally, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt steps in and says, "We're here because we can help your son get off, talk to you." After some tension, he decides to talk to them, and it's made clear that he's a very flamboyant man, Luis Guzman's character, but he ends up giving them the information that they want, right? And he just tells them like that they can't, to basically not, get him in trouble or whatever. So when they go out to the car, they're arrested by Kevin Bacon and other officers, and they've planted drugs in the car. So they're in prison or they're in the station, and Axel's able to escape from his cuffs. He gets everybody out, and then when they're escaping, uh, they're going through the stairs, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt tries to run down, and Axel says, "No, let's go up here." So they run to the roof, and as I mentioned previously, they set it up that Axel brings up at one point that Joseph Gordon-Levitt used to be a pilot, a helicopter pilot, and he's wondering why he's a detective now, right? Because he looks at it like a fall from grace. So he gets in there, and he sees a helicopter, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like, "No, this is a bad idea. They have to get in the helicopter because the guys are coming, right?" So they get in the helicopter, and you find out that he crashed a helicopter. That's why he doesn't do that anymore, right? So which is it's just a funny scene to me because the chase on the helicopter is just like ridiculous, and then it's like a low helicopter speed, chase through the streets. They end up getting all the way back to the police station where Taggart comes out, and at that point, he had been informed that they had been arrested by Grant for drugs, and so he kind of starts believing that, hey, they're being set up because he knows them obviously. And he's at the station, and he sees Grant shoot out the rotor in the helicopter, and the helicopter crashes on the golf course. Which, oddly enough, when he crashes, God, what's his name? The guy that plays Shooter McGavin. Let me tell you right now. Christopher McDonald. He's playing golf, and it's not insinuated. Like, they don't call him Shooter or anything like that in the movie, but it really does seem like he's playing Shooter McGavin character, right, in the role. And it's a funny scene, and And, like, again, I don't again, I'm not sure if it was, supposed to be Shooter McGavin, but it gives off total Shooter McGavin vibes. In the credits, he's not listed as, uh, Shooter McGavin, he's listed as, like, the golfer, but being the fact that they specifically picked him, he kind of acts how he acts, you have to think that was a nod to Shooter McGavin, 100%. So, they end up escaping, and they end up finding out that, uh, from, Chelino, who is the uncle of the guy that's being tried as being a cop killer, that, the information he gave him about the port where Billy Rosewood had been investigating and got caught, they end up going over there to investigate, and they find Billy, who's, been held hostage. They're trying to beat him up because he has an SD card that proves that the kid is innocent, right? And that's what everyone's trying to find. So they get him, and then they call back. Axel calls back to Detroit, has him track his daughter's cell phone, who at this point has been taken hostage by Kevin Bacon's character, Detective or Captain Grant, and they're at that house, or they're at that mansion. So they go back, and just typical chaos ensues. Right, they show up with guns blazing to get in, and they at this point, like, there's really nothing I can say that's gonna be surprising, right? Taggart shows up with a shotgun, and they're all fighting together to get to the bad guys. And um, in the last scene, essentially, the girl helps Axel Foley gets there. Then the girl helps save Axel. Then they get the drop on by Kevin Bacon, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt shows up and shoots Kevin Bacon's character in the head. And it's all done. Save the day. They prove their innocence. Typical, nothing new, right? In that sense. End of the movie, Axel Foley's in the hospital because he took a bullet for his daughter, right? Saved her in that way, and then he sneaks out of the hospital to get a cheeseburger. They kind of make up, reconcile, and then the last scene is, the daughter wanted to make sure that Axel went through his treatment because he's supposed to be in the hospital for a while and not, sneaking out. So Taggart and Billy Rosewood are out there, and Axel gets in the car with them and basically talks them into, like, let's go get a steak. So that's the end of it. Again, the movie was good, right? I didn't come into it expecting some jaw dropping script that was going to change my mind about how I view movies or anything. It's solid in the sense that you know what you're getting. You if you like the characters, you're going to enjoy it. But again, there's nothing different there. It's basically an updated version of the previous Beverly Hills Cop movies. Nothing wrong with that, right? They're relying a lot on the nostalgia of the characters. It's not a movie that you watch because, like, if Axel Foley wasn't a character in this movie, right? If it wasn't the characters from the old movie, and let's just say you name this movie something completely different that had nothing to do with Beverly Hills Cop, I don't think you'd say I have to go watch this, right? People are watching it because it's a continuation of the previous movies, right? And that works. It's a solid movie. There was some funny moments, there was some good action, but there's nothing that's groundbreaking. It's just a solid flick all around. I would not tell anyone not to watch it. If you like Beverly Hills Cop a lot, I would say watch it 100%. If you didn't like the first Beverly Hills Cop movies or any of them, you're probably not gonna like this. Um, and even if you're somewhat of a fan, you might enjoy it, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving this like a solid, 7, right? Because I think it got the job done for what it was, and I appreciate the fact that it wasn't trying to be something that it wasn't. You get Axel Foley. Like, it was, like, actually a good evolution for Axel Foley, the character, right? Like, he's acting like Axel Foley would at the age that Eddie Murphy is now. And there's some good dialogue in there, some good conversation about how stubborn he is and things like that. I like the fact that it wasn't just, "Let's show up, blow everything up." They paid a tribute to the old movies pretty well as also. Do we need I see, I think this is gonna work the way it worked because it was been so long since we've seen a Beverly Hills Cop movie, right? If this would have been released when they initially tried it in, like, the '90s, probably wouldn't have done as well, would have been a box office bomb because they were having so many of these released so close together. It works now that it's been years after, right? Because like that seems to be really be the thing now, right? Bringing making a continuation to something that happened 20, almost 30 years ago, right? And kind of giving fans an update on these characters or a potential ending in some cases. I mean, look at how well Cobra Kai is done. Like, if they would have done a Cobra Kai TV show, immediately after the first Karate Kid, or even after the initial 3 Karate Kids, right? It probably wouldn't have done as well. The nostalgia factor helps it a lot, and I think that's what is gonna help this movie do well. Again, solid movie, nothing revolutionary, nothing, "Oh my god," but solid story. You like the characters, you're gonna like it. Like, that's why I said it's just a solid flick overall, 7.0. Nothing wrong with that. I think, if they do another one, I think now they're gonna start pushing the testing, people's, loyalty to the series, because I did read that they were already potentially have another one in the works, which I don't think personally that that would work now. This worked, like I said, because it had the nostalgia factor, and it had been, what, almost 30 years since, like, the last one, right? That came out, and when did the Beverly Hills Cop 3 come out? I'll tell you right now exactly. Beverly Hills Cop 3. Yeah, 94. So it's been 30 years since the last one. So that's why this worked, right? Like the films were like the Beverly Hills Cop films, I think it was like 3 of them in a span of 10 years. So it was very, very tight, right? The first one came out in 84, then it was like 87, then it was 94. Um, so this one being 30 years, it worked. That's why it worked. And but if they do another one, I don't think they're gonna get the same warm reception I think this one is gonna get. So again, just solid movie, not a waste of time unless you don't like Eddie Murphy or you don't like the Beverly Hills Cop series, and you probably want to enjoy this. If you're just looking for a good way to kill 2 hours, you're not gonna regret it. If you like Beverly Hills Cop or Eddie Murphy's movies, then you're gonna really like this. Again, it's a essential throwback to the original movies, through and through. So that said, again, you're not gonna waste your time watching it because you're not gonna feel like you wasted your time. I mean, it's a good movie to watch, and let us know what you guys think in the comments. Did you guys like it? Did you guys enjoy it? Would you guys watch it if they did, or would you guys watch a fifth one if they did it, or do you think it would become overkill if they released a fifth one now? I personally think a fourth one is like a proper send off for the series. I don't think there needs to be a fifth one. But let us know. Nathan here, 24 Chambers of Film. Be back with more movie reviews. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you hitting like on the video, subscribing to the channel, and we'll keep bringing you some more content as often as we can. Appreciate it. Have a good one.